When we hear the phrase twin flames today, there is like a very specific image that jumps to mind, right?
Oh, absolutely. The classic romantic fantasy.
Right. It's usually this incredibly cinematic idea.
Mm.
Like you're at a crowded coffee shop, you reach for the same oat milk latte, your hands brush, you lock eyes, and boom.
You found your missing puzzle piece.
Exactly. We treat it like the universe's ultimate, matchmaking service, the absolute apex of the rom-com fantasy. But today, we're jumping into a source that totally flips that coffee shop script.
It really does. It takes it in a completely different direction.
Yeah, so our mission today is to decode this ancient spiritual map. We're looking at an excerpt titled The Inner Marriage, Vishnu and Shiva as Twin Flames. And we want to see what it actually tells us about love, wholeness, and the self.
Which is such a massive topic.
It is. Okay, let's unpack this. Reading through this material, it becomes immediately apparent that according to this Hindu mythological tradition, your twin flame isn't actually a separate person who just, happens to love you.
Right. And what's fascinating here is that the text is incredibly direct about this from the very first paragraph.
Yeah.
It states that in this context, twin flames isn't just a loose metaphor borrowed from modern spiritual language to describe a really good date.
Right. It's not just a buzzword.
Exactly. It's a cosmological reality encoded in the deepest strata of Hindu sacred tradition. So the source defines a twin flame not as two separate beings who find each other, but as a single original consciousness.
Wait, a single consciousness?
Yes, a single unified light. And this single light deliberately divided itself into two complementary expressions for one incredibly specific reason to know itself.
Wow. Okay, that concept totally redefines the setup from the jump. I mean, usually we think of division as a tragedy, right?
We do. We see it as a loss.
Yeah, like a separation that needs to be fixed. We think, oh, I was torn apart from my other half, and now I have to, wander the earth until I find them.
But the text says the purpose of the division isn't separation at all. It's depth of knowing.
Which got me thinking about how we actually process our own realities. Because imagine a writer who has this brilliant, complex universe just swirling around in their mind.
Okay, I like this analogy.
Right, because as long as those ideas just stay trapped inside their head, they can't truly be understood or even observed. The writer literally has to divide that internal world, extract it, and project it outward onto a piece of paper.
Yes, to make it tangible.
Exactly. The division, putting the thoughts outside of themselves, is the only mechanism that allows them to actually read, observe, and, understand who they are. Or it's like trying to see your own face.
Yeah.
You literally cannot do it without a mirror. The division creates the mirror.
That's a perfect way to put it. And that framework is vital for understanding what the text insists upon next. Because if the division is a tool for self-recognition,
Right.
then the return to wholeness is always an inner event. It is never an outer one.
Okay, wait, so the actual reunion happens inside.
Yes. The flame splits so it can turn toward itself, see itself, love itself, and return. But that return happens internally. The outer encounter with the twin flame, that moment in the coffee shop or wherever it happens to be, is merely the catalyst.
So it's just the trigger.
Exactly. It's the words on the paper reflecting the mind back to itself. It is not the destination.
Which brings up a massive question for you listening right now.
Yeah.
Have you ever desperately searched for something in the outside world, like a relationship, validation, a sense of home, only to realize eventually that the frantic external search was actually just a mirror?
A mirror forcing you to look inward all along.
Yes. Because we spend so much of our lives demanding that other people fill our internal voids. But this text provides a very specific roadmap for how this inner return actually functions. And it does so by tracking the relationship between two major deities, Vishnu and Shiva.
Right. And we have to start by looking at Vishnu's baseline state. So the text describes Vishnu as the preserver. His supreme function is to sustain form, to hold the worlds together. Crucially, his nature is deeply relational. He's the God who loves, who wants to be in contact, who desires to meet.
He's the connector.
Yes. But there comes a point where an outward meeting, two beings simply standing across from each other in space, ceases to be enough.
Because outward meetings always have distance, right?
Exactly. Even in the closest human relationship, there's a gap between you and the other person. And because Vishnu wants to love without distance, he turns away from the external world entirely.
He goes completely inward. And the source details that he enters the dimension of the sacred feminine that is, already living inside him.
He doesn't go searching the cosmos for a goddess to marry.
Right. He calls upon the goddess principle latent in his own being. He takes the form of Mohini. And here's where it gets really interesting, because there's a massive subversion happening here.
Oh, completely.
Usually in mythology, when a god changes form, it's a trick, like Zeus turns into a swan to trick someone, or Odin wanders around as an old man to test people.
It's usually a disguise.
Yeah, a disguise. But the source is explicitly clear on this point. Vishnu is not disguising himself. When he becomes Mohini, he is revealing a dimension of himself that was always there.
He literally becomes the feminine face of his own love.
Yes. He completes his own inner wholeness before the external meeting with Shiva even takes place.
That's the crucial part. Vishnu doesn't wait for his counterpart to make him whole. He does the inside job first. He marries the goddess inside himself.
Which is wild.
It is. And this challenges a lot of our modern romantic conditioning. The text implies that true readiness for connection isn't about clearing your calendar or finally feeling lonely enough to download a dating app.
Right, or finding someone to fix you.
Exactly. Readiness is achieving a state where you are no longer asking the other person to be your missing piece. And the text provides some vital context about Mohini to underline this.
Okay, tell me more about her.
Traditionally, she's known as an enchantress of incomparable beauty. Her name comes from the Sanskrit root mo, which means enchantment or fascination.
Like putting someone under a spell.
Sort of. It's the power to make another forget themselves entirely. But the source points out a critical identification here. Mohini is also a name of Parvati.
Wait, Parvati, which is a huge detail because Parvati is Shiva's eternal beloved.
Yes, it's the text pointing to a much larger truth. The sacred feminine is unified across all forms.
So the inner goddess that Vishnu calls forth, Mohini, is recognizably the exact same feminine essence that Shiva loves in Parvati.
Exactly. So when Vishnu, as Mohini, finally steps forward to meet Shiva, it is a true twin flame encounter.
Wow.
But it's only possible because Vishnu first became the wholeness he needed to bring to the table. He brought a complete integrated self.
And that integration creates a tremendous narrative tension. I mean, Vishnu has achieved perfect internal wholeness. He's bringing this absolute completeness to the table. But his counterpart, Shiva, operates on a completely different frequency.
Completely different. We have to look at how an immovable ascetic destroyer reacts when faced with total integrated wholeness.
Because Shiva is the absolute opposite of Vishnu's relational, world-sustaining nature. If Vishnu holds things together, Shiva dissolves them.
Right.
The text calls him the great ascetic. He sits in total stillness at the center of everything, untouched, immovable. Absolutely. I mean, he's the guy in the ultimate fortress of solitude.
He burns away the false, though the source notes that he isn't cold or indifferent. He burns with this fierce love that clears away everything untrue, so only the real remains.
He's incredibly disciplined.
Yes. He has withstood every temptation, burning desire itself to ash.
Which is exactly where I need to jump in. Because this part of the myth initially threw me for a loop. If Shiva is the ultimate ascetic, if he has literally burned away all desire and detached himself from the world, why does an enchantress make him fall apart?
It's a great question.
Right. The text says he sees Mohini and is completely undone. He forgets his detachment, his austerity, his composure. He just, drops all of it. A casual reader might think, oh, Mohini's just that powerful of a magical enchantress, like she put a spell on him.
But the text rejects that reading entirely. He doesn't fall because Mohini is an external force overpowering him with lust or magic.
Okay.
He falls because he recognizes her. If we connect this to the bigger picture, you cannot maintain your ordinary, constructed self in the presence of your twin flame.
Wow.
The meeting breaks past every constructed layer of defense. Shiva is undone because Mohini is his own feminine essence reflected back to him through Vishnu. It is the face of what he most deeply loves.
Think about how this applies to us today. Because how often do we use our own versions of detachment as armor?
All the time.
Right. We construct these identities, the independent one, the stoic one, the one who is perfectly fine on their own, the one who doesn't need anybody. We wear that asceticism like a badge of honor.
But really, we're just using it as a shield against being changed by love.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The story of Shiva teaches that true love requires us to be undone. You cannot hold on to your constructed identity and experience this level of wholeness.
And Shiva's reaction is the blueprint for integration here. He doesn't love Mohini as an outsider to be acquired or possessed.
He doesn't try to capture her?
No, he recognizes the principle that completes him, and he integrates it. He takes that feminine essence into his own being. He allows it to become part of his own internal landscape.
He drops the armor.
Yes, and marries her from within. The outer meeting was just the occasion, the inner integration was the actual marriage.
So Shiva drops the armor, he integrates this feminine energy, but the result of that integration is a transformation that honestly broke my brain a little bit.
It's a massive shift.
It is. The text says that because Shiva has truly integrated the feminine, something entirely new is born in him. He transforms. He becomes Lakshmi.
Yes. The ultimate paradox that completes the entire cycle. He becomes Lakshmi.
Wait, hold on. I need to pause you there because I'm losing the thread, and I imagine anyone listening might be too.
Sure, it's a lot to wrap your head around.
Because Shiva is the ultimate masculine destroyer, right? He burns things to ash. And Lakshmi is Vishnu's eternal consort. She's the goddess of grace, wealth, and abundance who lives in Vishnu's heart.
Right.
So how does a figure like Shiva literally transform into a goddess of grace and abundance? That sounds completely contradictory to his entire nature.
It seems contradictory until you look at the mechanism the source provides for this transformation.
Yeah.
In this spiritual tradition, archetypal energies are very much like an ocean.
Every ocean.
Yeah. So when you look at the surface of the ocean, you see individual distinct waves. One wave is Parvati. Another wave far away is Lakshmi. They look like completely different forms.
Right, they have their own identities.
Exactly. But if you dive deep enough past the surface, past the turbulence, and you hit the ocean floor, you realize it is all the exact same water.
Oh, wow.
It is the unified sacred feminine. When Shiva integrates Mohini, he doesn't just skim the surface. He reconnects to his own eternal beloved Parvati from deep within.
So he goes all the way to the ocean floor.
He dives so profoundly into his own core, so deeply into his love for Parvati, that he hits a depth where the differences just dissolve. At that absolute depth, Parvati and Lakshmi are one in the same water.
That is incredible.
So when Shiva becomes Lakshmi, it means he has integrated the feminine so fully that he now carries Vishnu's own beloved within himself. He has literally become what Vishnu most loves.
So what does this all mean? Imagine changing so profoundly for love that you embody exactly what the other person cherishes most. But the massive distinction here is that you don't achieve this by twisting yourself into knots trying to change for them.
No, not at all.
Right. You don't abandon yourself to become what someone else wants. You achieve it by diving to the absolute deepest bottom of your own core. The goddesses meet inside the god.
It is the twin flame path taken to its ultimate completion. The external beloved reveals the internal beloved. The encounter drives you so deeply inward that you find at the very center of yourself the beloved you've always been reaching for.
And you discover they were never separate from you at all.
Exactly. The twin flames don't just meet and walk away. They transform each other into wholeness. The remembering happens inside each of them, in that quiet interior place where the divine was never actually divided to begin with.
The beauty of that is staggering. Really. But what grounds this entire deep dive is a hard pivot the source makes at the end. It insists that this complex esoteric mythology isn't just, a cool story preserved in ancient texts.
Right, it's not just theory.
It's a practical, literal map for anyone navigating this kind of profound connection today. The psychological implications we've been weaving through this discussion are the intended takeaway.
And this raises an important question. The text warns that the meeting of twin flames is not a destination where you just get to stop growing. It is an initiation.
Initiation, okay.
Yeah, the critical factor is what you actually do with the recognition. Do you let it transform you from the inside? Do you integrate it? Or do you just let it remain a longing that never finds a home?
Because Vishnu didn't sit around waiting for Shiva to be ready.
No. He did his inner work first. He became his own wholeness before the meeting even occurred.
And Shiva had to actively choose to let his defensive structure crumble. He could have easily stayed on his mountain, detached and safe in his asceticism. But he allowed himself to be undone. He allowed himself to be changed.
It's an incredible cyclical journey when you lay it all out.
It really is. I mean, we start with a single, undivided consciousness that projects itself outward just so it can experience the depth of returning. We see Vishnu turning inward to become his own inner goddess, achieving wholeness independently.
Which is a huge step.
Then we see Shiva letting his entire armored identity collapse so he can integrate that love from within. And finally, we see Shiva transforming into Lakshmi, proving that when you dive deep enough into your own heart, you become the very embodiment of grace for the one you love.
It completely reframes how we view connection, taking the immense pressure off the external world to, save us.
Yes. So for you listening, if you're walking around feeling incomplete or feeling like you're missing a puzzle piece, this text is essentially begging you to stop frantically searching the coffee shops of the world to fix that feeling.
The answer isn't out there.
Right. The encounter with another person, no matter how profound or life-altering, is just a mirror. It's the writer's words on the paper. It's a catalyst designed to trigger your own inner marriage. You already hold the complete original light.
The wholeness is already there, waiting to be remembered.
Which leaves us with a pretty wild thought to chew on as we wrap up. If the divine intentionally divided itself, literally fractured its own perfect oneness, just to experience the profound, breathtaking depth of returning to love.
Wow. Yeah.
Does that mean every moment of heartbreak, every season of loneliness, every single time you've ever felt incomplete isn't actually a failure at all? What if that aching longing is the exact, mathematically designed fuel required to drive you back into your own inner wholeness?
That's a powerful shift in perspective.
It really is. Something to think about the next time you catch your own reflection. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring and keep looking inward.